Hi all, it is Hairbrained Lover, and we're back with another discussion video. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about physical nonhumanity and physical shifting. This is definitely a risky topic, especially with the opinions I have on this app, but I think it's really important for someone to try and find a neutral ground between people who are fearful and or hateful of physical nonhumanity and those who are physical nonhumans. Also, new little backdrop, next to my fish tank, you are actually being held by a piece of bamboo, and I think that's pretty cool. So, I kind of want this video to be in like a few different parts, this first part being defining some terms for those who may not know. For a quick disclaimer, I'm not going to go into the history of physical nonhumanity or physical shifting, just because I'm not informed enough on that. I wasn't there. I can't find a lot of great sources, especially about physical shifting because of the taboo around it, and it's just not something I want to go into in this video. This is more talking about the current modern interpretations and experiences of physical nonhumanity. Okay, terms. What is physical nonhumanity? So, a physical nonhuman is someone who is in some way bodily not human. So there are usually two sides of this identity. There's the literal sense, like I identify as my stereotype and I see myself as my stereotype, so if my mind is, for example, a cheetah, then my body must also be a cheetah. These individuals may not believe that their biology is non-human, which is also where the term biological non-human comes from. So actually believing that your biology is non-human could be something like me. For me, I believe that I have coyote and human genes, and that my human genes just write over a lot of my coyote genes. So phenotypically, so how I actually appear, I look human, but genotypically, I'm a mix between coyote and human. Some may also believe that their body is fully non-human in every single way. These are usually referred to as holotheres. Holotheres believe they are fundamentally non-human in every way possible. Now, let's define a couple more terms. So, physical shifting, or P-shifting. This is where someone shifts in a physical way into a non-human being. This can be just some ears, or it could be an entire bodily transformation. Okay, now we're gonna go into more like the mental health side of these terms. A hallucination is just when someone experiences something that isn't real or isn't there. For most people think of schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, where people have hallucinations of shadow creatures or spiders on the walls or hear voices. There are a lot of ways that hallucinations can present, and there are a lot of disorders that can cause hallucinations, but also normal everyday people can experience hallucinations as well. A lot of people also hallucinate on the verge of waking up and the verge of falling asleep. Hallucinations are inherently neutral. We're going to get more into hallucinations and delusions in the second part of the video. Delusions are characterized by believing something very strongly that is consistently proven to not be real. This is especially prevalent in things like psychosis, where someone experiences a complete break from reality. An example of a delusion would be that people are trying to communicate with you through the radio. Secret messages just for you. Delusions are also a symptom of many different disorders, but a normal everyday person can experience delusions if they are sent into psychosis. Recently, we're seeing a lot of that with generative AI-induced psychosis. Okay, another definition is clinical lycanthropy, or more generally, clinical zoanthropy. This is the delusion, usually accompanied with schizophrenia, having a schizophrenia diagnosis, of physically turning into some kind of animal. With lycanthropy, that is obviously a wolf. Zoanthropy is a more general, any animal. And of course, I have resources and links down in the description for any of these terms that, if I didn't describe them really well enough, or if you just like to look in a little bit more, they're down there for you at your leisure. Okay, now that we've defined a few terms, let's go into delusions and hallucinations. The first thing I want to say is that I do experience delusions and hallucinations. I have ultradian cycling bipolar, and because of that, during manic episodes, I have experienced delusions, and I continually experience mild hallucinations. During hypomanic episodes, I have never experienced psychosis or a break from reality, because then that would classify me into bipolar 1, and I'm bipolar 2, but I do experience hallucinations and delusions. Hallucinations are also not inherently harmful. Like I described, normal people, non-disordered people, can experience hallucinations. It is only when these delusions and hallucinations are somehow negatively impacting your physical or mental health, then it becomes a problem. My most common delusion, whenever I was having them before I got medicated, was that my food was rotten. And this was really hard for me. However, delusions are not inherently harmful. My delusion was harmful because it was actively hurting my physical health because I wouldn't eat. So, some physical non-humans and physical shifters have this identity or experience these things because of delusions and or hallucinations. And guess what? They're just as valid as any other kind of non-human. I don't know why this is a debate. They meet the minimum requirement of identifying as really whatever they are, is saying that they identify as that thing. I see a lot of anti-P shifters or anti-physical non-humans in the community accuse or try and diagnose others of clinical zoanthropy, and I think that's really weird and really wrong. You can't just look at someone on the internet and read a couple of their experiences and decide that they have this incredibly rare disorder. A lot of the hate around physical non-humanity also roots in sanism. Sanism being discrimination against those with mental disorders. Saying that someone doesn't belong in the community just because they experience delusions or hallucinations regarding their non-human identity is sanist. It's ableist also in general. Ableism being the discrimination against those with disability. I don't know, it all blows my mind a little bit. Now I want to get into our very own perceptions of reality and how that affects us as individuals. Personally, I think that reality is more defined as the collective experience, so what most people see the world as. And I think there are a lot of weird ideas around people who experience detachment from reality, whether that be through full-blown psychosis or through mild hallucinations. Just because reality is the collective experience doesn't mean that someone's individual experience with reality is somehow wrong or bad. People who are colorblind can't see all the colors that the normal human eye can. So they have a different sense of reality than the average person does. But any person cannot see as many colors as, say, a lobster or a bee. Does that mean that being able to see more colors is inherently being closer to reality or the real reality, and that humans are somehow disconnected from that? Also, time. Dogs experience time slower than people do. If that doesn't make you question whether or not what we deem as reality is anthropocentric, then I don't know what will. How can I decide that how I see the world and my reality is the right one, is the one that most people should believe? It's not my place to tell somebody else that their reality is wrong, especially if it's not hurting them. Anyways, this is kind of just me saying, leave people on the internet alone. You don't know them. You don't know their life. You don't know their medical history. It's really weird to try and diagnose strangers with very extreme, very personal, and also very rare mental disorders. Just trying to actually listen to these individuals and see how their experience affects them and let them tell you about their life and their experiences and their identity. And it's definitely not your place to oust these individuals from their own community when they most likely have already been abused somehow by friends, family, society, especially the mental health system. The amount of people in general who get abused psychiatrically or by some form of the mental health system is astounding. I myself have been medically abused. And tangential to that, we will go into my own experience in being a physical non-human. So, like I briefly mentioned earlier, I am what's called a methylated Alterhuman. Basically, through DNA methylation, some of my genes, which are coyote genes, have been overwritten with human genes. So phenotypically, I am almost entirely human. There are some aspects of my phenotype that I personally believe align with these coyote genes. But that's just my own thoughts. What I really want to get into is hallucinations. So I don't experience delusions of parts of me turning into a coyote because I don't believe that they are real. I'm aware that my hallucinations are hallucinations. Personally, I don't believe in physical shifting, but that doesn't mean that it's not real to other people. I guess my big idea is that what I believe to be real isn't what everyone else believes to be real. I don't believe in past lives. That doesn't mean that past lives aren't real to somebody else. We can see that in people remembering their past lives. I personally don't believe in a higher power. However, other people do, and they see those experiences. If I've ever read about near-death experiences of believers, they usually describe something different than what an atheist would describe. Personally, I don't believe in p-shifting. Does that mean it's not real? No. So, because I don't believe in p-shifting, I know that my hallucinations, as real as they feel, aren't real. And I also can't see them. A lot of p-shifters can see their shifts. And they don't owe you proof, by the way. Most commonly, I experience shifts around my face. Most recently, just a couple of days ago, on my birthday, yay, 17, I had a very vivid hallucination of my snout growing and my fur growing on my face. So, while my neurons are telling me that this is happening, and I can feel it in very specific parts of my body, I know that it's not real. This is not how everyone experiences it. A lot of people say that what they're feeling and what they're shifting, that their shifts are very much real. And you know what? Good for them. Leave them alone. It's not your job to reality check these people. Okay? So, to conclude, physical non-humans and physical shifters have been around for a long time. They should be just as welcomed into the Alterhuman community, especially because they are often ousted and discriminated against and ostracized from other communities. A lot of these individuals experience some kind of medical trauma or abuse due to their hallucinations or delusions, or their perceived having of these. It is blatant Satanism, blatant ableism to try and oust these people from their own communities. Not all physical Alterhumans or p-shifters are delusional. It's not my place, or your uncle's place, to diagnose strangers on the internet with usually very rare and very personal mental disorders. It's kind of important that we abandon this idea that our own reality must be the correct one, because how everyone experiences reality is different from each other. How different species experience reality is different from each other. Delusions and hallucinations are inherently neutral. They're not inherently harmful. They're just different. This is just a different way of experiencing non-humanity. And honestly, Alterhumanity in general, though I am not aware of a lot of physical identities that happen in human identifying Alterhuman identities, besides fiction IRLs, I guess. It's time that we all just learn to listen to each other and stand in solidarity as a community, because that's usually all we have. A lot of people don't believe our identities, don't believe that we can identify the way that we do. They want to medicate us for things that may not even be harming us. They want to tell us that we're just human, that we're delusional, that we're not contributing members to society, that somehow we need to be fixed. And that's really not right. Trying to rip out these more extreme parts of Alterhumanity is not making you more palatable to people who hate you. It is not making you more palatable to outsiders. It is just hurting you and just hurting your community. We stand strong if we stand together, and this goes for any marginalized community. We can't have this internalized hate. Outsiders will still see you as weird. They'll still see you as wrong. So, own it. Own your Alterhumanity. Let others own their Alterhumanity in ways that make sense to them, that feel good to them. This is such a personal experience. There's no way to dictate how it should be. Anyways, rant over, I guess. I am recovering from being sick still, but I've got my voice mostly back. Sorry if I sound a little bit husky throughout the video. Also sorry if you hear my little baby Jenny. My little baby Jenny, she's my rabbit. She doesn't like being held, but I wanted to show her to you guys because she's very cute. And also want to show you guys where you have been held. So this is my fish tank. You were held on this piece of bamboo. It's pretty cool. I'm getting new filter replacements soon because I have a really obscure filter that I just got for free off of one of my coworkers. It's Vimfin, I think. But anyways, I got some loaches, which is sick as hell. I love loaches. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. This is a little bit longer than my last one, so it was a little bit ranty, but it's just something that I feel really strongly about, and I think that everyone else should feel more strongly about too. And if you have any other topics that you'd like me to talk about, then just comment them. And again, I'm plugging my art channel because that's where I show you how I make these masks, and literally all of my art stuff, because I just kind of post my music on here. Anyways, should I make an intro and outro?